What's up, everybody? You're watching the Tucson Tour, and I am your host, Keeley, the Tattooed Tucson Realtor. It's a show where we explore different places and locations around Tucson, Arizona, and get to know this area a little bit better together. Today we'll be exploring Ruby, Arizona, which is an abandoned mining town located 70 miles south of Tucson and 4 miles north of the Mexican border. It was originally established in the 1870s as Montana Camp, which was the base camp for the Montana mine located at the base of Montana Peak. In early 1912, the post office was established by the general store owner at the time, Julius Andrews, and the town was officially named Ruby, Arizona, after his wife. At its peak in the 1930s, the town had a population of over 1,200 people and quickly became a safe haven for cattle rustlers and other criminals. Ruby's proximity to the Mexican border made it a target during the Mexican Revolution, which erupted in 1910. The constant raids and unrest caused by this led the town to fall into increased lawlessness, and town residents were instructed to be heavily armed at all times. The most prosperous period of time for Ruby, Arizona was from the late 1920s into the 1930s, when the Eagle Pitcher Mining Company was operating the mine and upgraded the town. From 1934 until 1937, the Montana mine was the leading lead and zinc producer in the United States. In its heyday, the mine had 325 employees working around the clock 7 days a week, producing over 15 tons of ore a day. By 1940, the mine had closed and the town was abandoned by the end of 1941, with the post office closing on May 31st. Ruby, Arizona is one of the best preserved ghost towns in Arizona, with approximately 25 structures still under roof, including the jail and the school. There's a museum on the premises and many other partial structures. All 350 acres of Ruby are privately owned, but access is permitted Thursday through Sunday with permits. The town does lie at the end of about 20 miles of dirt roads coming out of Aravaca. There is also lake access and fishing here at Ruby, Arizona, with Mineral Lake behind me being naturally stocked with bluegill and largemouth bass. It is catch and release only, but you do not need a fishing license to fish here, with all that being necessary being a permit from the front because it is privately owned land. They do ask that you not release any live bait into the lake, and no gas engines are allowed. These white sand flats leading up to the lake are not actually sand. They're called tailings, and they are the processed residue from the mill. You may be tempted to play in them, but you should refrain from that because they contain lead, silver, gold, and arsenic. During the summer, the mine is home to a breeding colony of over 500,000 Mexican free-tailed bats. When they emerge from the caves in the evening is definitely a sight that's worth taking the trip out to Ruby to see. One of the best preserved buildings here is the old schoolhouse, which has been actually turned into a museum. At its peak in the 1930s, the school had over 150 children enrolled here. This is the site of the third store that was built in Ruby, Arizona, also known as the Ruby Mercantile Company. This is a famous set of remains because it is the site of a double homicide. In 1920, a group of Mexican bandits attacked and killed the two owners of the Mercantile, and then in 1921, the same group of Mexican bandits came back and murdered the new owners, which resulted in the largest manhunt in southern Arizona history and the first recorded usage of aircraft in a law enforcement search. As one of the most well-preserved ghost towns in Arizona, Ruby is home to mining, murder, and mayhem. With activities here ranging from wilderness exploring to hiking to camping to wildlife watching and fishing, there's something here for everyone. And despite the hour-and-a-half drive or so from Tucson, it is well worth the trip.